So we're starting our study of linear equations, and when I say linear, look at the base of that word. The base of that word is the word line, and so these are essentially lines that we're now going to be graphing, okay? And so because we're in algebra and we're learning equations, we're learning of ways to write things mathematically, and so we're going to learn some forms of lines, and these are different ways, formats essentially, of writing the equation of a line. Okay? So just to recall, what we've already covered here is that slope is the variable m. It's rise over run, which is another way of saying delta y over delta x, or in other words, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, where x1, y1 and x2, y2 are any 2 points on the line. And you can calculate it either way using any 2 points and arbitrarily picking them as point 1 and point 2. And you'll get the same slope regardless of how you do it. So note that, like we said, m is the slope. We're also going to introduce a new variable, b, lowercase b, which is the y-intercept. And I have demonstrated that on this line here. So here is my x-axis and my y-axis. I have this blue line, and I have the slope measured out here with my rise over my run. That's the lowercase m. And then right here, where it crosses the y-axis, notice that that's where it crosses the y-axis. That is what I'm going to call the letter b. And what that is just the whatever coordinate it is on the y-axis. So if I'm counting up here and I'm counting this is 1 and this is 2 and that's 3 and it crosses at 3, then for this case b would equal the number 3. Okay, it's just the y coordinate where it crosses the axis right there. Alright, so we're going to learn 3. I've said forms of lines. There are actually 3 of them we're going to learn. Okay. The first one is standard form, which is what I'm calling the most mathematical. It's ax plus by equals c, and notice these are capital A, B, and C. Not to be confused, don't confuse the capital B with the lowercase b. This capital A, B, and C are parameters that describe the line. And we're going to be learning this. It is the most mathematical, it's the most pure, but it's not terribly useful or practical to use. And inevitably what people end up doing is converting this to one of the other 2 forms I'm about to tell you about. But we are going to be studying it, and you will be studying it quite in depth. The next form is point slope form, which, as you could probably guess, includes a point and a slope. That is what it has to do with. So up here on the graph, it would be, some point right there, and that would have some coordinates x1 and y1, and then of course it has a slope, and so we would have to know the point and the slope, and we could use point slope form. Okay, and that is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1, where x1, y1 is any point on the line and m is the slope. And notice that that does not tell us anything. Notice what we're seeing here. Okay, what we're seeing here is that we have an x and a y, and we have an x and a y in both of these that don't go anywhere. And the reason that that's the case is that for any line, no matter what form you have, you'll have an x and a y variables. You'll have 2 actual variables that you're not doing anything with, because that can represent any of these points on this line. And notice I can have an infinite number of these points here, and they all have x and y coordinates, and that is what this x and this y represent, or that's what this x and this y represents. You want to have that. Okay? So this form is not really used as it is. We convert it to SI with slope-intercept. By the way, I use the letters PS to abbreviate point slope, and I use SI to abbreviate slope-intercept form. So suppose we choose the y-intercept as the point that I was talking about, such that we have some point 0, comma b. Now think about this, 0, comma b. If my points are in xy form and I'm not moving from the x-axis right here, then my x is 0 and I'm going up to wherever the b is. So that is going to be my point there. Okay? If I'm on the y-axis, the x coordinate is 0, and so I have the point 0, comma b. Okay, so what if I plug in 0, comma b into point slope form? And so this becomes a b right there, and this becomes a 0. Okay, so that's what this would look like right here. Now let's just solve this. Well, let's see what we can do with this. Well, x minus 0 is just x, so really this is just that. And if I add b to both sides, then I get this. Y equals mx plus b. This is slope-intercept form. Okay, that is slope-intercept form, and that is the most useful of the three forms. And you've probably heard it talked about in school, but that's what we're going to be using the most because it's the most useful. It tells you very direct information. It tells you the slope, and it tells you the intercept just from looking at it. So it's very easy to use, and it's very useful when you're considering linear equations.